Welcome all to IGY6 Games, the gamer channel that brings you a variety of entertainment and content. Bo here in the ear. Before we kick things off, I'd appreciate the love by y'all sharing and hitting those icons that need clicking. With that said, check out our social medias where we post daily and keep in touch with our followers. Now let go. Before we get into the strats and tips of defeating Cerberus, I'd like to give a special shout out to OG King Rashad, SWild20, and Big Boom DJ. I'd like to say we put in X amount of hours and umpteenth amount of times to attempt it, but we actually got this on our first run. There are two distinct roles while taking down Cerberus. One will be the DPS, the damage dealer, who just does damage to the bosses, while the other three, let's call them runners. And they just take the aggro of the bosses and we just work them clockwise around the arena. Now let's start with the DPS role, the damage dealer to the bosses. I would say it'd be whose view in preparations to go ahead and activate the weapon review, the 20 bonus accuracy. You're going to need an accurate shot taking down the weak points of the bosses. Now let's cover the DPS's build, which in this video will be SWild. He's rocking Assault class with the Silver Stake Stoner combo. Now the reason being, you're going to use the Stoner while you're popping your special and using the Silver Stake while you're building your cooldown back up and getting the full damage potential out of the Silver Stake while the cooldown is low for your class talent or special. Now let's break down the role of the DPS. We're going to split it in two halves. Obviously you have the top 50% of the boss's health, while the bottom 50%, when they get more aggro and a little more difficult, that's when the fun begins. So we start with SWild. He pops his special and gets the whole Silver Stake thing going with the cycling. Now he's going to go straight in, position himself in the middle between the three bosses that are going to be in a triangle formation throughout the whole time. Now he's just withering away on all three bosses, getting them as close to 50% as possible before breaking down the second half. Now the reason DPS is just staying in the middle and getting these shots off and not worried about grabbing aggro is the runners. Their job is keeping the bosses at distance around the outside of the arena, and he gets to do what he needs to. And the only thing he has to worry about really is just when the flash is coming, know to look down. Now eventually DPS is going to wither him away all the way down to 50% as possible. And once he has that last one, he's going to break that one all the way to 50%. Let's consider that halftime. And at halftime, DPS needs to get out of the triangle. As we all know, you can't be in the middle once it's past the yellow stage. And just as he's about to get the last boss to 50%, he's going to tuck himself away in a corner. And I'll cover that in a little bit. But we get to the halftime. And then after halftime, they do their little spinny thingamajig, and it's on to the second phase, where he's going to be in a corner, any corner, really doesn't matter. As long as he's in a corner, he doesn't have to worry about grabbing aggro for the second half of the bosses, and he's just going to wither them away and try to get to them to about last segment 5% in health. And then when he gets to that point, we're going to find a nice space where we can announce boss is going down. He's going to take one down, and for the runners, that's when y'all jump in and assist to take the other two, because you have about 15 seconds to do so. Now remember, DPS is constantly, every time he's getting his special up, he's switching the Stoner, popping the special, using the full benefit of that special, and then switching back to Silver Stake when the cooldown is low. Now let's cover the other three squad mates, aka the runners, and let's start with the build. They too are running Assault. They need that extra health just in case they get sniped by the sniper. But they want to run with weapons that have damage to drones and auto marking, so you don't get blindsided from a drone when you're running. They'll sneak up on you and you are fucked. Two specific gear pieces you would like to have is the boots and pants, having the additional movement speed, and the most important talent or perk I should say, is burst forth for the additional 10 movement speed. Now from the jump, each one of us runners are going to grab their own boss and grab their aggro and start rotating around the arena and have a wide formation with the triangle. Now be sure y'all are in agreement which way y'all rotating, because y'all don't want to be running to each other. That'll fuck everything up. Now you want to keep these bosses wide while DPS is in the middle doing his thing. Don't want him to grab an aggro accidentally and, you know, bringing a boss a little inwards. It might happen, so keep him a little wide. Now, for the guy who's on the sniper, aka the laser one or the flash boss, you want to be on your game on announcing your flash is coming. That lets everybody know, A, to look down, and B, to start rotating on to the next boss. Now why rotate?
Rotate.
If you don't rotate bosses between those flashes, their aggro is going to get, let's say, more aggressive, and they become faster. And more faster, you ain't going to survive that long. You want to keep them at that slow pace, so every flash, be sure to rotate to a different boss. So the first phase of the runners is pretty simple. Grab aggro from a boss, manage drones, deal with your boss while maintaining a wide formation triangle around the arena, wait for a flash, switch to your next boss. A little tip handling the drones. When they spawn, if you can handle it and not panic, have a little patience, allow them to spawn and cross over their little lava gap and reach the arena. That way when you take them down, the squad has ammo drops. Now let's cover the second half for the runners. During the second half, you want to remain with the exact same strategy, but bring the bosses in a little bit with the formation. Make that triangle a wee bit tighter, because you gotta remember the DPS is tucked in the corner, and if we have that wide formation still, he may accidentally grab aggro, and that will fuck the whole dynamic up. So bring your bosses in just 5-10 meters, keep the triangle tight, and keep formation rolling. Now during the second half, while you're maintaining the same strategy, just the triangle formation a little bit tighter, managing drones, we're doing the same thing and just allowing the DPS to whittle away the health of the 3 bosses. And eventually, that DPS is going to take down that first boss with a little heads up, and then the job for the other runners, or for all 3 runners, is to find one boss, typically it's the one across from you, and take it down as soon as possible. Time is of essence, because you have about 15 seconds to do so, and if you don't do so, you're shit out of luck, and you gotta rinse and repeat, and nobody wants that. Another tip for the runners: if you're worried about your spacing with the triangles, the radar, the minimap is your friend. Obviously we all know it. You want to keep this triangle as equilateral as possible. You want to maintain a great spacing. It makes everything flow flawless and doesn't worry the DPS about if a drone, or not a drone, but a boss is going to come upon them and he takes that aggro. So top priorities for the runners are always rotate on flash, manage the drones, and keep the 3 bosses in a good distance triangle formation, and everything will work flawlessly. Oh yeah, one more tip. During the second phase, red phase, second half, however you want to say, the flashes do last a little longer. I'd say about maybe twice as long. So be sure to look down twice as long. You do not want to get flashed, especially during that second half. You could really mess up the rotation. And as we close out, hope you got what you came for. Share with your mates. Click those buttons that need the clicking. Want to catch us in action? Check out the squad as we stream. Schedule down below in the description. Swing on by and say hello. And as always, I say peace.